Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to Tuesday Takes with Tre'Shon Diaz. I'm Kevin Knight. We are here once again on the Dirty Birds of Bruce podcast presented by FanDuel to bring you our thoughts, of course, on the Falcons' much better game in Week 9 against the Patriots. Unfortunately, still lose it on a missed extra point. So that kicking situation has not improved, and Parker Romo paid the price today for that. As well, and we have yet another kicker entering the fray because the kicker they ostensibly brought in to compete with Parker Romo was also just released. So apparently that was never really a serious. Ben Sauls was just released from the practice squad, so apparently that was never really a serious competition to begin with. Now we have Zane Gonzalez in the building. Oh yeah, and at the trade deadline, the Falcons didn't make any trades, which seemed to upset Dr. Arnold Ebiketie himself. So, Tre'Shon, a lot to get to today. How are you doing? I know there was some dental work earlier, so we wisely postponed the show also because of the trade deadline. So just in case they wanted to do something. But how are you holding up now?
I'm doing good now. The numbness is gone, and my face is moving all together as it should be. So, from a dental standpoint, I'm great. From a football standpoint, we are not doing well, Kevin. We are not doing well at all.
Yeah, it is. It's not been a great day. I wasn't expecting any major moves. I don't think anyone should have, but I really thought Arnold Ebiketie would have been traded. I think they heavily hinted, and obviously Ebiketie himself seemed to believe that he was going to be traded. He was not. Ebiketie, in a sense, deleted tweet also seemed to express some dissatisfaction at him not being traded. But I don't, this team, it doesn't surprise me that they just kind of held on to everybody and didn't really try hard to clean out the contract year guys because, they're coaching for their jobs, and it's a lot to ask guys that are coaching for their jobs. And even though I think we believe that those jobs are probably already more or less over unless they can find a way to go 7-2, which, I'm not really sure these players are going to be the difference between you going 7-2 or not. But, maybe they could be, but a lot to ask. But the Falcons now walk into next year with just a handful of picks and no first rounder, and they're going to be on the hook obviously for Kirk Cousins money next year, at least $10 million. We'll see if anybody else ends up signing him. Kind of seems doubtful that they will, but not great. So it seems like they kind of botched their opportunity here to load up on some later picks. I mean, we weren't talking anything serious. Maybe some day 3 picks here to kind of round out the draft class. They don't do that. They're not able to move Kirk Cousins. What a wonderful opportunity that presented itself for Cousins to step in for a game, show he still had it, and get traded, and just completely fumbled it. Obviously, not entirely his fault, but looked terrible. There was no chance of anyone trading for him after that. So. Kind of all fell apart for the Falcons in terms of their ability to get extra picks for next season, and it doesn't seem likely that they're going to get any outside of some moves maybe next March or something like that. But kind of a disappointing midpoint of the season here, because obviously the Falcons are also 3-5 with a much tougher schedule than it initially looked when we started at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, much tougher. And I was also kind of hoping that the Falcons would maybe be active at the trade deadline from a seller standpoint. I don't think that they really had any opportunity to be buyers just based on the fact that you're 3-5. You've sent away so many you've sent away future assets already with a first and a fifth. And so, we thought maybe we would see AK moved. AK thought, maybe that he was going to get moved. But I think the Leonard Floyd hamstring is kind of what set back that plan. If Floyd hadn't gone down and missed time, I think maybe we would have seen AK move. When you look at the other options, obviously, I think Kyle Pitts is the name people always kind of look at around this time. Unfortunately, the receiver room is just so dang terrible that you can't get rid of Kyle Pitts. We haven't seen Tegan Quarantino play tight end in a real fashion at all. Charlie Warner is essentially getting his snaps reduced. I think that's like a interesting thing that hasn't really been discussed as much, is that the team has kind of lost faith in Charlie Warner's ability to be a consistent blocking tight end for them, or just doesn't see him as necessary. And halfway through last year, the opposite had happened. They turned to him and used him even more. And so, unfortunately, nothing's going to change for the Falcons, at the trade deadline, and they're going to have to make do with what they have. But it's important to remember they've preached consistently that what they have is enough. And so, that it's on to them to prove that to us.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get much proven to us other than that we were right about this team needing to sell today and get as many picks as possible, and that they will probably all be looking for new jobs at the end of the year and not facing the consequences for not making any of these moves. So they probably don't really care much one way or the other here. But disappointing trade deadline. Don't think the Falcons made the necessary moves to either get into the playoffs or attempt to get into the playoffs, or start to sell off some extra pieces to recoup some draft capital next season. But not really surprised either. They seem to be pretty. They're kind of in a tough spot. I mean, I'm not really sure that they were. We should have expected much from this group. They don't seem to be really cognizant of any of their issues, really. I mean, I'm sure that they're aware of them, but they don't seem to be taking any necessary steps. And that leads us to talking about this Week 9 game, which at this point, you guys all know. You've had time to digest it. The Falcons go to New England as expected, play up to their opponent as they typically do, give the Patriots everything they could handle, that give Drake May one of his worst games this season, kind of just managed to keep things in check, even though it's far from perfect. They force some turnovers. They get 6 sacks on Drake May, and they go down the field to tie the game late in the fourth quarter. Michael Penix, I think, has one of his best games. I'm sure we'll talk about that in more detail. Drake London has probably his best game ever as well, with 3 touchdowns, including one on what should have been a game-tying drive. And the Falcons' decision to continue to trot out Parker Romo, who has been a serviceable fill-in kicker, but we just know that that's what he is because he's unreliable from every distance. Like, Parker Romo could make or miss any kick at any time. That's why he's not a starting NFL kicker. And lo and behold, misses an extra point. Falcons end up losing 23-24. And one of the more frustrating losses, Tre'Shon, because if the Falcons had tied this up and just given up a field goal at the end of the game, that's one thing, right? It's like, the Patriots, you got beat by the Patriots, a team that's really on top of the AFC. I mean, in the conversation with the best playoff teams at this point in the year, you give them everything they've got, they can handle on the road, and you just get beat on the final drive. That's fine. You miss an extra point to take away the opportunity to even take it to overtime or get a game-winning situation, and it just stings. And again, it reeks of this just malaise that seems to be over this team, that even when the players sort of come out here and overcome a lot, it still looked really hard for the offense, especially in the red zone. In third downs, they didn't convert a third down until late in the third quarter with like 50 seconds to go in the third quarter. That was the first third down conversion they had on offense. And despite all that, they're in it at the very end with an opportunity to tie, and they miss an extra point. It's like we're running out of. I'm running out of explanations. I ran out a while ago, but they keep throwing new and crazier scenarios at me, and I have no more words for it. So.
Yeah, this was a game where I think that, when people are struggling to say that they competed because they don't want to like give any ground in this situation and be like, and say like, well, they competed, like that means anything. I think that like it just kind of talks about the issue that we've talked about, every week here, which is that this team is a roller coaster. And, if you can go out and if you can perform like that against the Patriots all the way down to Gwyn snaps, and really you just lose by a point. That's, kind of frustrating because it's like, how did you just get blown out by the Dolphins? Like what are you, who are you, And, this was a road game, a difficult place to play, a difficult defense to play. But, at the end of the day, what undid them was what always undoes them. And that's themselves. Is their careless mistakes, bad coaching, And so that's kind of the story of the, Atlanta Falcons right now. And not much is going to change.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's an acknowledgement of the problems here. We kind of knew this with how the staff has basically treated the issues thus far. There's an awful lot of talk about we just need to execute better, which is coach speak for we don't know how to fix the issues, right? Like, just do it better. That's what our plan is. Just be better. Like that's a coherent strategy. If the players could just be better, they would. That's not a strategy. That's just saying words. It's like, yeah, let's just be better. Why don't you just be better, Zach Robinson? Why don't you acknowledge any of the shortcomings that we've seen thus far? So I'm not surprised by where we're at. I know you aren't either, but it's, yeah, to have the kicking game, it's like we've known the kicking game was a problem ever since Parker Romo was signed and had a good game and then a bad game. And then he sort of every other week was having a bad game and missing lots of kicks. Like, I think the kicking game has cost the Falcons at least 2 games, if not 3 at this point. And the team just didn't seem to be taking it seriously. They were just like, yeah, we're fine with Parker Romo and Ben Sauls, who we thought, like I think you mentioned a good point, which is like, yeah, Ben Sauls is a left-footed kicker, so they would have to change the operation. So it's like maybe they're just practicing that and they're not ready to hand it over yet, but he'll get a shot here soon. No, he never gets a shot. He's on the practice squad for weeks and gets cut, and they immediately sign another guy in Zane Gonzalez, which makes you think, like, was Ben Sauls even ever really in consideration, or did they just sign him to shut up the fans, or like, maybe they thought they liked him, they didn't. They never really gave him an opportunity. So the whole handling of the kicking situation just screams ineptitude from top to bottom. You can't just let it slide and like think that things are just going to get better, and it bites you again in a huge spot where you miss an extra point. You just can't have those in the NFL. Like, if you can't make your extra points, like, I'll give Younghoe Koo credit. He didn't miss extra points. At least it was mostly field goals. At the end, Koo was even unreliable on extra points. But even in his down year, last year, he was still pretty good on the extra points. But man, it's just there's kickers out there you can get that are like, if you can't find someone that can hit 50 plus, that's fine, but at least be able to hit extra points at like a 95% rate. And yeah, I just can't believe you don't take the kicking game seriously in the NFL. I mean, it's such a critical part of all these teams, especially when you're a team like the Falcons who's winning at the margins in a lot of these games. You can't afford to miss 1 point here and there. It's just not. It's crazy to me. So,
yeah, that was something that, like, it was a head scratcher for me when they signed Sauls. I got like you already said, I'd mentioned it then, that it's like, this is somebody that's going to have to cause them to make a pretty significant structural change, operational change. And, are they really committed to that? And the answer is no. And so, you wasted all of that time. You could have had another kicker instead on the roster already. And so, it is kind of a puzzling, I think, display of roster management, and that's like the whole way that everything has transpired with these kickers, in the kicking situation. The Falcons did a really good job of marketing Lenny Craig, in the off season. So, kudos to them, but it's very clear that, like, this is a guy that they do not believe in, to be ready at all this year. And it's, I've talked about it as well. Like, if you look at his EFL statistics, it's easy to see why. His best season was like Younghoe Koo's 3rd worst season from an accuracy percentage standpoint. And he had a couple of seasons where he was kicking in the high 60s. So you never signed an accurate kicker. You just signed a guy with a leg. And, people are enamored with that preseason kick. But I think it's really telling that they don't even want to roll him out there. You and I talked about how he's an IPP player in the first place, so the whole benefit of having him is that he doesn't count against your practice squad. And it just makes it really frustrating that Atlanta just kind of was like, who's gonna fix it? Like, that was really the plan, like, all along. From what we've seen and from what we've learned, they just believed that Koo was going to figure it out. And that's, you can't, your best plan A can't be believe.
Yeah.
This isn't Ted Lasso. Like, you have to have an actual plan. And they did not. And now we now it's Groundhog Day all over again, Kevin. We just signed a Washington kicker that was pushed to the side, and I think his last miss was a 50-plus yard field goal attempt.
Yep.
So
I mean, yeah, and Zane Gonzalez is like a fine kicker. I mean, I think he's probably the best one they've brought in so far, but we all know like Gonzalez has his own issues. There's a reason he's not on a roster at the moment. So, we'll see if that produces any better results. I think to Gonzalez's credit, he's been getting a bit more consistent, but I don't know. I don't really, that's not a long-term thing. Again, this is a guy that can get you through the rest of the season at a better rate, but he's definitely had some very rough years, especially earlier in his career. So maybe he's finally put it all together here. We'll see. I definitely, but it's like I would have rather had Gonzalez on the practice squad than Sauls if you were just going to cut him. Like, I mean, why wasn't Gonzalez in here? I mean, maybe he didn't want to sign, but I figured he would take a practice squad check over no check, but whatever. Just, it doesn't feel like they ever really took the position seriously in the offseason. Like you said, it was just believe that that Koo's going to work. Okay, that's fine. Like, that can be plan A, that Koo's going to fix it. But you need to have, like, an actual plan B that's not scramble, like, in week 2 to find another kicker. Because if they had brought in someone in camp, like, they could have easily had, like, an actual kicking competition with Koo in camp. There were tons of guys available at that time. There weren't any players left in week 2 when they decided to finally move on from Younghoe Koo. So like at that point, it's too late. So it's just, you can't have it's fine to have like a belief in your roster. That you should have a belief in your roster. If you don't, then you shouldn't have the players, right? But you can have a belief in player A and also have player B in the wings who, like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Koo isn't better. Koo isn't fixed. So we have to move on. So what is plan B in that case? And for the Falcons, it was like, what? Plan B? We don't need a plan B. Koo's going to be fine. Come on. Stop it with that downer talk. That's not going to happen. It's going to be fine. And, lo and behold, it happened, Tre'Shon. And they've been, this is a team that really, like, with the coaching issues, and that's kind of one of the themes of today's shows. I feel like the roster is like Sisyphus pushing the boulder uphill. Like they just, like, Sisyphus is really strong and like but he's been cursed and he's never going to get that boulder uphill. No matter how hard he tries or how talented or strong Sisyphus is, he can never get the boulder up because he's cursed. And the curse in this case is a coaching staff that is really just inept and forcing these players to try to overcome their mistakes each and every week. Sometimes it's time management. I think the management of the kicking game is a big coaching mistake as well. And we know the offensive issues. And even Jeff Ulbricht's gotten in on the fun with his deployment of JD Bertrand, who must just be like, I don't know if he's the biggest teacher's pet or what, but that dude just keeps getting snaps, even when it's plain to see. Like, Ronnie Harrison looked like very solid. I mean, he didn't have a perfect game by any means, but I thought he looked solid. Like, he was making some plays. Better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, and they put JD Bertrand back out there on the final. Like, I hope Ronnie Harrison better be hurt or like, we're going to be asking some major questions here about why JD Bertrand's in coverage on a critical third down. When I don't think he had one snap in the entire game that was on the par of even Ronnie Harrison, who was a guy that you just signed off your practice squad. Like, I mean, it's just, man, like, I thought we could lead, and like most of the time when I talk about the coaching, I accept Jeff Ulbrich, but this JD Bertrand thing has ruined that. Now we've got nothing we can hang our hat on. I'm out of options.
Yeah. It's hard. What's really difficult about that play is just that they subbed JD Bertrand on the field for that third down. It was Ronnie Harrison out there before, and then it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. There are 11 personnel. Kind of seems like it's going to be a pass play. I don't know. To me, it seemed like obvious pass play. They had to get the first down. They've been doing, pretty well, I think, at that point. And so you bring in Bertrand. There was no reason. Like, even with when you look at how the game flow went, Ronnie Harrison outsnapped JD Bertrand by about 11 snaps. So when you look at what transpired over the course of the game, you literally leaned on Ronnie Harrison more and called his number more. But when the game was on the line, you just had to prove that you were right about this player. You just had to prove that he's actually going to do what you want him to do this time. He's going to quickly read and diagnose this play. And he just chokes. Like there's no other way to say it. You know, I know the people are talking. I've seen some people say, well, it looks like there may have been a rub or that was a tough assignment. Here's the thing. It's man. He knows that tight end is all he has to worry about. Where is your help? His help is inside. Where do you have no help? You have no help outside. He set himself up for failure from the start. He had inside leverage on that player. He never gave himself a chance, and he backpedals into the slant routes. They didn't even try to run a rub. They just ran double slants, and this kid walks himself into the receiver. And it doesn't get funnier than that. I mean, this was such a simple click and close. He's running an out route. It's a tight end. He got matched up with a tight end. They gave him a favorable matchup. He didn't get Pop Douglas like poor Jaylen Walker had to get on that one random wheel route. And so they do everything to make it simple for him. They tell him it's man, and he just doesn't have it. And so the staff has to just accept that. Like, and you know, I know that that's not what he wants to hear, and I know that Terry's, you know, probably going to be upset that he's wasted another 5th round pick, but this is kind of like my issue with Bertrand is I keep seeing people saying this guy shouldn't be playing. 5th round picks should play. It is absolutely ridiculous that people are out here acting like this is some poor guy who was an undrafted free agent thrown out there. This man has a hype video on the Falcons account from the day he was drafted. He's a 5th round pick. You know what the Falcons did with a 5th round pick? They got freaking Xavier Watts with a 5th round pick this past year. Those are valuable. Those are not wasteful picks. So this idea that he shouldn't be out there, no, you need to criticize your scouting department. You need to criticize the people responsible that said this guy is an early day 3 pick. And reminder here, JD Bertrand played for like half a practice at Senior Bowl. He then missed all of that offseason because he had a foot injury, which means he got his job and he got his 5th round pick status from his interview skills. I'm so sick of people talking about how much they loved the guys in the meeting and this, that, and the other. I would let them date my daughter. No one cares that you would let him date your daughter. Nobody gives a damn about it. This is football. It's not The Bachelor. It's not Matchmaker. Great. He's a swell fella. Awesome. He's not fit for this role.
Yeah. Like you could find nice guys all over the draft. Like you don't have to draft them everywhere. In the 5th round. Like it's just, yeah, it's ridiculous. And it's also like, it's a 5th round pick. You're absolutely right. Like they should play, but like also if they're not working out, just move on. It's a 5th round pick. It's a day 3 pick. These are all crapshoots. Like, and like sometimes you need to hit on like half of them. That would be good. But like if you shouldn't be forcing a 5th, like this is not like a 2nd or a 3rd round pick where it's like, we really have to play this guy because we're going to look terrible if this guy doesn't play. A 5th round pick is like, okay, like we hope that he's a contributor, but if he's not good, like this isn't your 1st round pick that you're just giving snaps because of their draft capital. Like you really shouldn't be forcing your 5th rounder onto the field. Like if he's not good, it's not going to help you to put him out there and have him be bad. Like just keep him quietly on the bench and be like, yep, he's there if we need him, all the while knowing we can't put this man on the field, like, and just hoping that you can develop him. Like that is something that lots of teams do because people miss on day 3 a lot. It happens. But like, I don't think there's anything he does better than Ronnie Harrison. I'm sure that was obvious in practice. I still don't know what the hell Josh Woods has to do. Josh Woods looked great in the preseason. You know who didn't look great in the preseason? JD Bertrand. Going against the same level of competition, like everything else. Like, that's why I thought Bertrand was going to be cut, because he looked terrible in the preseason. They kept him. I was like, well, okay, sure, that's fine. They kept Josh Woods too. Josh Woods, I guarantee you Josh Woods is would produce better results than Bertrand. Like, you mentioned that 3rd down play is just, it's case in point. He just stands there for the first like 2 or 3 steps of the tight end's route. He just stands there. He has the tight end in man coverage. The tight end takes 3 steps out. He's running a route. He's releasing. Like, there's no question that he's releasing. There's no reading that you have to do. It's man coverage. If he's moving left, you got to move left. You're in man coverage. He just stands there for the first 2 or 3 steps and then reacts and like basically trips over himself because he's like, oh shit, I'm supposed to have the tight end, like, and then like runs into like his own guy as a result. Like, he could have easily gotten around that pick. Like that he should have had no issues getting around that. Like, he should have been, if he, now I'm not sure he makes the tackle or anything if he goes over there, which would be another issue, but like, he should have absolutely had a shot to tackle him short if he just follows his man. Like, this isn't even advanced stuff. This is basic, like, follow your man and man coverage. Like, this is like middle schoolers can follow their dude. Like, you see that guy? Just look at him. And if he's going out, you just follow him. That's it. That's all you have to do. This isn't complicated zone coverage instructions where you're reading your keys and maybe you drop or maybe you don't, or maybe you do this or that. Like, it's like, there's nothing more we can do. Like, if you're not going to follow your guy in man coverage, I can't play you. That's not playable. I can't coach you up to react to your man taking 3 steps. Like, you have to start doing something. It's like his feet are stuck in mud for the first 2 seconds of every play. Like, that's not playable in college. So I don't know what happened. Like, I don't care if you're wrong, Bertrand. Just do something. Like, run somewhere on the field at this point. Like,
and that was
take
the difference
steps
with Harrison. When you watched his mistakes this week, he's going full speed. He's that's just something that you've heard in a football practice setting from day one. If you're going to make a mistake, you better be doing it full speed. And we're just not seeing that from Bertrand. And it's just costing everybody. And it's just getting old at this point because it's not a secret. Everybody in the league realizes it. I think Dave posted some horrific stat about the fact that, like, since last season, he's basically just a free target anytime he's on the field.
Mm-hmm. It's just, so it's one thing to give him a shot in one game. It's like, we think this is our best option. We're going to give him a chance. Okay. Then they went back and did it again the next game, and he was even worse. And then what was the, like, I don't know what the hell the point was. They put him out there to give him the start. He got the first snap, and then they pulled him off the field. Like, are you just trolling? Like, is this what you're doing? Like, don't you have better things to do than try to I don't know if you're trolling the media. I don't know if you're like protecting his ego to give him another start. Like, what are we doing here?
The idea that they would be so scared to see Harrison make a mistake after what they've literally seen from Bertrand is just kind of mind-boggling.
It couldn't possibly be worse. It couldn't possibly be worse.
I mean, at worst, he's playing the same as Bertrand because that's how bad it is. Like you're saying, I'm like, we're like, what, you're going to go from bottom of the league linebacker play to bottom of the league linebacker play? Like, you have to let other guys make mistakes too. You've let Bertrand make mistakes long enough at this point, and it's a wasted pick at this point. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, like I'd rather just if they just said, like, if they had just cut him, like, I would have been upset. But it's like, he got outplayed. Like, they have Ronnie Harrison. Maybe you can offset a bad day 3 pick with a good UDFA pickup. Like, you could make the argument that, like, they should have just kept Landman. I mean, obviously Landman had a down year last year. He was coming off serious injury. I still think he's been more, at least, he can stop the run. Like,
he's getting carved up in coverage still, though.
Yes.
I don't know.
But like, it is like, it's like, I feel like they didn't have any plans at depth linebacker after they moved on from Landman. So it's like, maybe you should have just kept the guy could at least stop the run. At least he could do that. But yeah, he's still not a good coverage.
The Troy Anderson thing, like, going back to your point about just kind of like, man, like, I don't.
What's going on there? Like, what happened?
This isn't normal.
No,
like, this isn't normal. And like, I don't know, man. I had the tinfoil hat on last year talking about the situation where I just believed that they completely misdiagnosed him. And they rushed him through that process originally, which then caused another setback. And now there's like another setback. And Raheem came as close to saying that man's not playing again this year, as like he basically said it in Raheem Morris terms. He basically was like, no, nothing. Like, and he was pressed pretty hard about it. So, I just don't, really understand, like you're saying, like, okay, like, even if Troy is playing and came back. So then you're saying that you were going to bet on Troy Anderson being healthy all year. Like, there's still a depth issue. Even if Troy Anderson in this hypothetical situation came back at some point, you're still probably terrified that he's going to get hurt or might have to come off the field, or you'll probably get him hurt playing him on punt team, something like that. So
yeah, like Troy as your third linebacker, I'm fine with. Like, that would be like depth that I would be, but like you still need like a fourth linebacker, and like to go from Troy as your third and maybe Bertrand as your fourth, like, okay, maybe I would be okay with that going into the season. Like, Bertrand, it was clearly like the top backup, and he's unplayable. So it's like they didn't take the linebacker position seriously at all. And it's like, I mean, they did for the starter. Like, Divine Diablo was a home run. Like, he looked outstanding. He completely changed the defense. You can tell how important he was. He was really the linchpin of this whole thing. Like, he could do everything at a high level and really gave them something they missed desperately last season. And hopefully he's back soon, because the defense with Divine Diablo was so much better than anyone could have predicted. And so like I want, like, again, this is like, you can overcome misses with hits. So like, you missed on JD Bertrand, but you knocked it out of the park with Divine Diablo. Now, obviously, he got hurt. That's not really Fontenot's fault or anything, but it's like they were clearly like recognizing that, oh yeah, Bertrand's not starting caliber. Like, we can't go into there. And same with Troy Anderson. Like, we need someone else, and they do that. But it's like, you can't just make one move. Like, you can't just sign Divine Diablo and then be done. Like, what about the rest of the roster? What about the depth chart? Like, I mean, it's just, and the same thing at receiver. It's like, oh yeah, well, you know, Darnell Mooney was great last year, and Raver McLeod was better than expected, and that's it. Nothing. We're not gonna do anything else. We're not even gonna bring in like compelling UDFA receivers. Like, it was just they brought in like 7 possession receivers to fight over roster spots and kept like 3 of them. And now, lo and behold, all they have is possession receivers. Like, because they cut Raver McLeod presumably for being upset about what happened with Ike Hilliard, and I'm guessing he's not the only one. And I hope someday, Ike Hilliard, if someone could get a message to Ike Hilliard and tell him to, like, off the record, send me like what happened. Like, I need to know, because I think I know. I think we all probably know, but that would
no
really
one's got to feel better about what's happened than Ike.
Yeah,
because nothing has changed since he left.
Yeah,
and that's really unfortunate, because that's just kicking a man out on the street because you can't face the facts of the team that you've put together, the offense you've built, and just putting it all on him. We don't know what takes place in those meeting rooms, but for a coach to have never anything bad ever said about him, and then just one day he's gone, is a little bit telling. But it's cold business, and he will probably not be the only coach that we don't see here again next year.
Yeah, I think he's just the first of many. I think he's probably big chillin', happy not to be a part of this mess, because clearly he reached some sort of limit going into week 3, and then let his frustrations be known. So that's my opinion. But every day that this team, every day that goes on past that makes that seem more and more likely the case. Because if anyone was going to call out Zach Robinson, I mean, I can't imagine it's like, I would think it would either be Dwayne Ledford, because he's the other guy that's been around the league and done this a long time. The only other guy that I think would have the cachet to say something like that would be Ike Hilliard, because I think he's the second most respected coach on their entire offense. Like, Dwayne Ledford, you could say, I think, is number 1, and I think that's fair. But like, other than that, it's Hilliard. Hilliard's coast Hall of Fame receivers, or guys that will be Hall of Fame receivers. So, to try to go out and say it was performance-based is laughable. I just really, the whole thing stinks to high hell. And it doesn't sit right with me. It makes me really question a lot when we see stuff like that happen. And I think, like we said at the time, that was a canary in the coal mine move. And I think it's been borne out ever since that, like, this offense is just rotten. And now Jeff Ulbrich is failing us. Like, we can't hang our hat on anything. It's very disappointing.
We can hang our hat on Jaylen Walker being that guy.
There we go.
Because what a game.
Great segue. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, it really was just kind of like that put it all together performance that you were hoping for. It's clear that the time off did him really good. I thought the lower body explosiveness was there. He was, taking it to the best tackle of his draft class with no issue. Will Campbell is no slouch. And, when you look at the matchup, this is one that should have been in Will Campbell's favor because everybody talks about length being Campbell's issue. Walker is not a lengthy guy, and he showed you that, that basically that didn't matter at all in this situation, and that just made it a level playing field. And Jaylen, outside of being asked to, get into coverage a couple of times, had a really good game. And if anything, it kind of just feels like this is just only the beginning for him.
Yeah, Jaylen Walker looked so good. This is exactly what we were hoping to see. Them unleashing his rare movement skills, and letting him kind of go after it. And this is kind of what we talked about like earlier, where I was like, I do wonder if like eventually they see him as like kind of playing the role that they've had Caden Ellis playing a lot this year, where he's like playing a lot of overhang and doing a lot of unique rushing and stunts and stuff. And obviously Walker is much more of like an edge rusher than like Ellis is. Like Ellis is mostly a linebacker that occasionally drops down. I think Walker could be like an edge rusher that occasionally lines up over the A gap or something like that, and sort of those packages. But it's like,
it looked like,
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like one of the other things that took place in this game was they asked Caden Ellis to do more traditional linebacker work to help kind of with that whole situation that's going on. And so I do think that we saw Walker, get a bulk of Caden Ellis's pass rush snaps that he is used to getting. And I think that we'll probably see that trend continue. And then kind of like to your point, I think that's just only going to really be good for for Walker's development. We saw him as a looper there on the sack. And then he got it the traditional way, just kind of bull rushing Campbell. So being able to mix him around, like you're saying, put him in the A gap, move him all around. This is kind of like, don't like saying comps like this, but this is kind of like the Micah Parsons stuff people talked about, where they're like moving him, getting this uber athletic thing. And like Micah Parsons, you don't drop this man in coverage. You don't ask him to move backwards. You don't ask him to play like a traditional linebacker. People are so obsessed because he got, the Dick Butkus Award, Jaylen Walker. That was the Dick Butkus Award does not go to whoever plays linebacker the most fundamentally sound. That's not what that award is. Who's the most game wrecking? Who's the most explosive? Whatever you want to call it. Player on that second level, and that was Jaylen Walker, and that was when he was moving forward. And the Falcons have done a really good job because you can get an Isaiah Simmons in this situation if you don't play your cards right.
Yeah, very similar situation there, and I think you nailed it. And it's like Walker can occasionally play coverage, and like that, like the rep with Pop Douglas, like honestly, like I mean, he didn't like play it poorly. He's just a lot like an edge rusher matched up on a very shifty slot receiver. There was nothing he could do there. Like I don't know that he could have played that any better. It's just like you really have to be watching for this if this happens. Like somebody has to get this handed off so that Walker's not trapped covering a slot receiver. That's never going to go well for any edge rusher or linebacker. I don't care who. Maybe Divine Diablo would have had a shot, right? Like, but he's a former DB, so like that's a very different type of conversation. Like you can have Walker do some like zone drop stuff from the edge. Like I think that play where he was able to disengage from the tackle, get his hands on that pass, that was a critical stop in this game. Like he has good instincts. Like he can do stuff like that, but you never want him lined up as a Mike playing like a zone. Like you don't want, like that's not going to go well for you. Just because he's much more capable in coverage than typical edge rushers doesn't mean he should be playing coverage. Like just keep that in mind, guys. Like, just because a guy can do something doesn't mean he should be doing something. He should be doing what he's best at. And that's, I think, what the Cowboys figured out with Micah Parsons pretty quickly was like, oh yeah, he can do linebacker stuff, but what should he be doing? Rushing the passer. And that's exactly the same thing with Jaylen Walker. And I think going forward, he'll be a totally integral part of this defense. It's part of the reason I thought they were going to move on from Ebiketie with Walker now healthy. Not that I want Ebiketie to be gone. Like I think Ebiketie's also played well, But like, I think they could have gotten a pick from Ebiketie, and it's unlikely that they're going to re-sign him, given that they have 2 first-round edge rushers, and they're going to have to spend money on a lot of stuff next offseason. Are they really going to spend to keep Ebiketie in the building? I don't think so.
You want to be here.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things that like we've kind of talked about is there's guys that have been here under Terry Fontenot's entire 5-year tenure at this point, gone through the Arthur Smith, Raheem Morris. How many of these guys are genuinely feeling like this is a place that they want to continue to stay and be at? How many more times can you sell them that they're just one season away from finally getting out of their 7-8 win rut and really being a competitive football team? It's going to be a hard sell. And if there is a major staff turnover, then some of these guys might not even get to make that decision, and we'll really see them clean house, because that's something else that typically happens when new guys come in. So it would have been nice to see them get something. It kind of seemed like the option was there. I understand from their standpoint that the Leonard Floyd injury probably, poked some holes into that plan. But, at the end of the day, that just really meant that James Pierce Jr. would have probably been getting more snaps. Jaylen Walker would have been getting more snaps. And I don't really have a problem with that. Khalid Kareem could easily get called up from the practice squad. We saw that he was one of the better edge defenders that they had last year, which I know wasn't saying much, but he outplayed Matthew Judon. And so if you've got something like that on the practice squad, you could have made it work. But, it is, what it is. Terry's not inclined to help the guy that's going to take his job. And so they're standing pat.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a bad situation all around there. But it's nice to actually have edge depth. So I guess I understand.
It is very nice.
We finally have it. We're not going to trade it away. So, and maybe the new staff will want to keep Ebiketie around. I mean, if he's willing to sign for a reasonable amount, I would consider it. But maybe I think he can get more, in the open market. Yeah. So we'll see. But as we see, sometimes guys think they're going to get more or better offers, and nothing really materializes, and they do come back. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But you mentioned it. I mean, I thought the defense definitely had a bounce back game. It was far from like pretty, especially in the first half. They really tightened up in the second half and played the Patriots a lot better. They really gave Drake May hell all day. I mean, Ruka Rororo was getting involved. Brandon Dorless might have had the best game of any of those interior guys. He was just shutting it down every time May tried to get out of there. Lakeil London had a great shed to get on top of Drake May when he was trying to escape the pocket. And really, it was just a total group effort, and it's been so rare that we've seen that. A lot of times the Falcons have had like one guy that might be able to rush the passer, and then everybody else is kind of just there. But today, Sunday, it was a total group effort, and it seemed like pretty much every one of these young guys got involved, and that is a nice thing to see when we're talking about draft picks screwing up. A lot of these defensive linemen are actually pulling their weight out there. So
that's all right, they are, and that's what we wanted to see. Obviously, there's still a hole for a legitimate, I think, nose tackle. We've seen good stuff from Lakeil. We've seen good stuff from Sam Roberts, but, just a little soft there. But, maybe when Zach Harrison comes back, I would like to see the team keep Lakeil and Roberts both elevated together. And then you add Zach Harrison in, and then there's a pretty beefy front right there for you, because Zach can play anything on the line. And I do think that that's probably a big loss that this defense has not had, that seemingly is kind of flying a bit under the radar. You do not hear a lot of people mentioning that Zach Harrison has missed multiple games in a row. The main focus has been on Divine Diablo. Zach Harrison was Zach Harrison was the best all-around defensive lineman they had, and he has been missed deeply.
Yeah. I think that was a big. I think losing Walker and Harrison and Diablo was really
terrible timing.
Yeah, that's the 3 best run defenders, on every level, basically. Walker was the best run defending edge they had. Harrison was the best run defending defensive lineman, and then I think Divine Diablo is the best run defending linebacker. So
yeah.
Just all 3 at once.
Billy Bowman on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, Alford's been solid in coverage there, but Bowman was definitely a more impactful run defender. He's a little bit thicker. That helps a lot there. And it just I think that the explanations for this defense taking a step back are much easier. And also we saw the defense really crush it up until Divine Diablo's injury. And really it's I want to accept Jeff Ulbrich, but like somebody has to stop JD Bertrand from coming on the field. Like I don't know if we got to lock somebody in a closet like Thomas Dimitroff style or what's going on here, but like just like if we could just get Bertrand off the field, I think everything's going to be okay with the defense. Like still, like the defense is still fine. Yeah, are they vulnerable against the run? Yes. It's very bizarre to me that they didn't get a real nose tackle. I think that would just have helped them a lot considering how light they want to play up front. But like, you know, I mean, other than that, I don't have too much beef with the defense. I think they really nailed it. And I think by the end of the season, we'll still look at this as being way better than we expected. Unfortunately, the problems are with the offense. And even on a day where like Penix, I think had one of his best games. We talked about Drake London. I think this is a career day for him, just making the circus catches. Kyle Pitts was involved, you know, and this was on a day where the offensive line really crapped the bed, especially early. Like it was really rough at times. They weren't getting anything going on the ground. They haven't been able to get anything going on the ground for weeks. It's really embarrassing. It's just, it makes me feel like, again, I go back to the Sisyphus thing. Like the Penix and this offense are trying to push that boulder uphill, and the boulder's name is Zach Robinson, and they're trying to carry him as much as they can, and they almost did. They almost carried him to victory today, but it looked way harder than it should have, Tre'Shon.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, just kind of feels like same old. Again, you know, I just feel like we're kind of running in circles with some of these topics, and that's what makes. Man, that's like what makes like talking about this team and talking about these like situations again and again, year after year, so frustrating because it's like, when can we talk about something new? And you know what? I will give the Falcons credit because they said that getting 6 sacks a game will not solve all of our problems. It's not going to solve all your problems. So, you know, credit to them for finally addressing, you know, the sack number issues. But it's very telling that nothing has changed. And I think that's something important for people to remember because there's always this feeling that the Falcons are just like they're one step away. If they just fix this one problem, everything's going to be okay. And that's not the case with this team. There's issues, you know, that exist all the way around. And so, you know, it's just kind of getting old at this point because it feels like when one thing gets fixed, another thing breaks down.
Yeah. It's just brutal out there. And, it just frustrates so much to watch what looks like a very talented offense. We know that there's limits to the wide receiver room. That's not a surprise, but like I think that they could be doing better there. I think obviously getting rid of Ray McLeod for probably no real reason is not helping in that regard when you could probably use a more dynamic slot receiver, especially because it looks like the 12 personnel with Werner might be dying down because again, he's disappointed in a big way. I don't know, maybe just let him play inline tight end more. Maybe that would help. I don't know. But
he hasn't been in the backfield in weeks,
no,
I think.
They heard that loud and clear. I mean,
yeah.
It wasn't like you can't do it ever. We were just like, maybe don't do it like every play because it's weird. But they were like, nope, we're done. We're done with it. Like, yes, it was a cool wrinkle, but we're done with it. So we're either going to use it on every play or we're not going to use it at all. There's no in between. And I mean, it helps that Kyle Pitts has been a better blocker, but yeah, it's like, it's like they've elevated. I think they've used both of Dylan Drummond's elevations now and not given him a single snap. So it's like, okay, what was the point of that? Like, did you want to see what he did? And they were just like, nah, David Sills time, baby, let's go. And I feel like I'm just dunking on David Sills. David Sills is a very respectable
wanted possession. To like Sills, man.
I think he's a fine possession receiver. I think he's a Drake London backup, but like him and Drake London on the field at the same time does nothing. Like then you just have like Drake London's much more dynamic and is much better at getting open. That's why he's the starter and one of the best receivers in the NFL. David Sills is like Drake London without that. So he can do some of the same things. He's got good hands. He can't get open, but he can block.
Forgets a route every game. It happened again this game. He forgot. You could tell he did not run the right route. He didn't know what he was doing. And so it's kind of like, man, I really wanted you to work out, but
yeah. So it's like, we need to see like, okay, like if you want to see Dylan Drummond, that's fine. Like get him on the field then. Like we can't just have David Sills out there running nothing and getting targeted and just not even being like close to the football, like, or just being completely covered on every play. Like Where's my boy Nick Nash? Like, I'm fine with giving Dylan Drummond an opportunity. Where's my boy Nick Nash? Like, what has Nick Nash done to be behind David Sills? That's what I want to know. I mean, Sills was good in training camp with Kirk Cousins, but like ever since then, like, I mean, we should give some of these guys a shot. Like, this is not working.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't have much to lose, I think, from shuffling, that receiver room. To your point, I don't know about Dylan Drummond, just because Dylan Drummond, anything that got thrown further than 5 yards down the field, it was a bit terrifying.
Yeah.
But
he created separation in 5 yards, though. He's got that going for him.
he can. But I would like to see the Triple Crown winner maybe get some run. And, I understand that, like, that could also open the door for some mistakes. But, Drake London's like the only receiving option, in that room right now that seems to get anything going. It's very disappointing to just kind of see what's happened with Mooney. And there's really just not much else, the Falcons can do with that situation. And he's been hurt. He's just kind of like underperformed with the amount of drops he's had. It's just not been good all around. It'll be interesting to see if the Falcons cut him after this year, or if they decide to let him play out the final year of that contract, because, at the same time, I don't think they can necessarily afford to get rid of a talent like that. But it's very clear that he's a wide receiver 3 that overperformed and had a really good wide receiver 2 like season last year.
Yeah, and it's like, I think there's still an opportunity for him to finish strong and stick around. But like you said, like he's really expensive next year, and like, I mean, that was always the most expensive year of the contract. His cap hit is $18 million. A post June 1st cut frees up 12. Right now, the Falcons only have $5 million in cap space next year. Now, that's before the Kirk Cousins cut, right? I mean, we all know that. So they're going to free up like $35 million from the Kirk Cousins cut. But like I think it's very likely that I'm going to stop saying maybe, because I feel like it's very unlikely that this coaching staff survives. And if they do, like, it's not like, I don't know how they're going to sell it to anybody. Like, it's going to go over like a wet fart. Like, I mean, no one is going to be interested in this team if they don't move on from this staff from missing the playoffs again. So if we do get the total revamp,
it just hit me, Kevin.
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen Jamal Agnew used as a wide receiver?
Because he's made of glass. I mean, I don't know.
But
like, yeah,
it
I mean,
just
at
kind
this
of hit
point,
me that I'm like,
yeah.
oh yeah, there's a guy that was a gadget player all of his years before, and he'd be good for about 3 explosive pass plays, every season, and we have not used or tapped into that once, while we have a wide receiver room that's falling apart. He's already on the 53-man roster. You could definitely make the argument about health, but at this stage, it's kind of just like, you need all the help you can get.
Yeah. So like, I hope Mooney turns it around, because he's been really nice, and it would suck to have to go find another wide receiver too. But
his deal's so good, I don't know if they will. Like,
yeah, still, I mean, he's gonna have to, like, I think if he shows, like, if he can just show a little bit of what he showed last year, they'll probably keep him. But $12 million, if he's a post June 1st cut, they may just want to take that. I guess we'll see. But depends on what the new regime wants. But yeah, it's gonna be tough to find a wide receiver 2 and 3 in one draft. So I mean, I still want to see Nick Nash. I think he could be a wide receiver 3 for you. But my honest opinion with the Jamal Agnew thing is that they don't have like any plays to draw up for him. Like, I feel like they don't have any ideas. Like they honestly don't know. Like they don't have any plays drawn up for him, which is like, can't you just play him in the Raven McLeod role? It's like, I mean, look at what they're doing with David Sills. It's so uninspired. Like, I mean, they're not really drawing up anything for anyone that's not Bijan or Drake London. Maybe occasionally Pitts stuff, but I just feel like
Kyle Pitts screen every now and then.
Yeah. I'm a man of culture. I like my tight end screens to go to Kyle Pitts, but at this point, I feel like they don't have any. I don't think they have any plans. Like they don't have any ideas or like that. Like they're literally like they have nothing. They have nothing. I think Zach Robinson's clearly like barely hanging on. And is out of ideas. Like, and like I know like we've talked about like he doesn't want to change. I think that's part of it, but I also think problem is like he doesn't have any ideas. Like there's nothing else there. Like I think if there were some great ideas he had, he probably would have implemented them by now. And maybe that's part of why he's not succeeded as an NFL offensive coordinator, is because maybe he's a good initial planner, but he doesn't really have a counterpunch. I mean, that was a complaint last year as well. And in season now, like with the pressure on and very little time week to week to make changes, it seems like he just doesn't really have anything to go to. And I think that if you can't adapt, it's adapt or die in the NFL. And I think unfortunately Zach Robinson's probably heading to the latter in terms of his NFL career, at least in the short term, because I don't think that he's going to survive very much longer with this. I mean, this level of offensive outfit will be fine, but I just feel like he's not helping them at all. I feel like it's just Drake London making circus catches. Otherwise, this red zone offense would be terrible. So, I mean, it is terrible even with that. So,
yeah, there's nothing else that we can really say about Zach at this point, unfortunately, than what's been said.
Yeah.
We came into this year and we said we would figure out if the play action issues were really Kirk Cousins or if it was really him. It's clearly him. We said, that if he is still kind of just middle of the pack, they're good at moving but not great at scoring, then this was going to, be trouble long term. And we're halfway through the season. Nothing's over, but I don't think that there's going to be, a massive course correction. Last week the Falcons did score in the red zone. They did get help getting there, but they have to cash in. But they scored on like goal line fades and very inefficient plays that aren't sustainable. That I don't know if you're going to see that be able to transpire week to week. So it's a tough challenge ahead. But he's fighting for his coaching, I think, validity and career at this point, because I don't even know if McVay's going to call him and let him come home if things go really south.
Yeah. It's rough out there. Like, yes, Drake London is capable of these crazy fade catches. That is not a good play. Like that, it maybe like, I mean, you can throw one every now and then to keep defenses guessing, and Drake is certainly capable of coming down with it. But like, if that was just like one of the tools in the toolbox, that would be fine. But like outside of that, and just Bijan making it happen, they have nothing in the red zone. Nothing interesting, nothing creative. They refuse to use leaks, tight end leaks. Like I haven't seen one tight end leak all season. Like they just won't run it. Like, and they use two tight ends. It's like how the hell can you not run tight end leak with two tight ends? Like, I don't know what the plan was, but the plan is bad. Whatever the plan was, it's not working, and there is no new plan. This is the plan. And yeah, I mean, I think it just comes back to, like, there was never really a coherent strategy for this offense, and the fact that Raheem Morris didn't sort of figure it out before the season and question it more and push Robinson to explain, like, hey, why aren't we running play action? Why aren't we, marrying our pass and run game concepts? McVay talked about doing this a lot in Los Angeles. Like, why are we not doing that? He didn't, I think that's his job as the CEO head coach, to grill his coordinators and be like, so, like, why are we doing it this way and not that way? Why are we doing it differently? Why are we using pistol? And I'm not here to harp on the pistol, but like, that's a question he should ask. Like, I don't think he asked those questions, and that's why we're in this predicament, because if he asked those questions and Zach didn't have a compelling answer, I would have gotten a lot more concerned and pushed him, but he doesn't seem to be pushing anyone. He's just sort of rubber stamping them and letting them do their thing. But like, this is your team, Raheem. This is Raheem's team. Like, this isn't Zach Robinson.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
This looks like a Raheem Morris team based on his history as a head coach. They're playing like it.
Yeah. So maybe it is really Raheem's team, but like, he's like, you're going to do your thing, Ulbrich, and you're going to do your thing, Zach, and I'm going to do my thing and tank the whole operation. So
do my thing. Just leaves.
Yep.
I'm going to go talk to Terry. You guys got it.
I've done what I'm here to do, and it's like, you didn't do anything. But yeah.
And oh man, what something that drove me crazy too yesterday was just the comment about the kicking competition being back open. And what drove me crazy about that quote is that is like directly undermining his special teams coordinator, who has a quote on August 16th that says the kickers are in competition every single day with each other and with guys on the street. That is the same mentality that Marquise had back in the summer. And so to me, it was very disappointing to hear that the head coach does not have the same mentality as the guy that's responsible for that area of the room, who has always said that every day, everything is a competition. So just really, that answer really bummed me out, because it just kind of like, you're like, what are you doing here, man? Yeah. Like you're undermining yourself and your coaches with different quotes every week. You constantly talk over your own words, and it's just kind of frustrating, and it's getting old. And I'm just so tired of Morrisisms at this point, and yeah. I just wanted
we're to
back
end.
To the Quinnisms.
Yeah. I just wanted to end. Yeah. And that's where we are. Unfortunately, the Falcons facing the Colts this week in Germany, Berlin game. So we'll get up bright and early, even earlier for you. Oof. Was that 6:30 kick for Pacific time? So rough there. But Falcons per FanDuel 6.5 point underdogs to the Colts. And the Falcons will probably cover that because they seem to do that against good teams. But yeah, definitely a tough game coming up, Tre'Shon. And I think they lose this game, and they're all. I mean, it's over. Like. I mean, technically it's not, but like if they lose this game, they can afford one more loss to get to 10 wins through the entire rest of the season, which is 8 games. So they'd have to go 7-1 if they don't beat the Colts. They could have stolen a game against the Patriots. Then they would have had to go 6-2. That's okay. Like that's a little bit, maybe that's reasonable. Like that, and you could miracle that and be like, okay, we're going to triple our wins. That's fine. But like 7-1 is not possible for this team. It's not possible. So, and if they are, I told you guys, we'll buy whatever jersey you guys want. If you want the Felipe Franks jersey, you want the JD Bertrand jersey, whatever jersey. If they turn it around and make the playoffs, we could customize it. We'll get something crazy. But like it's just not going to happen. And this is where it probably all falls apart because the Colts just got a hell of a lot better today too. So, which with a pretty unhinged trade in my opinion, but
Drake London is scaring the hell out of other teams, man.
Apparently.
They saw that 3 touchdown performance and said, we got to go get Sauce Gardner.
Yep. But yeah, we'll see how that game goes. But Tre'Shon, anything else you want to hit on today before we sign off?
Absolutely not. Let's get out of here.
Let's get the hell out of here. All right, guys. Yeah. Thank you for joining us here on Dirty Birds and Brews, presented by FanDuel, folks. Tuesday takes with Tre'Shon Diaz. He's at Trey3Sean on the Twitters. Also, Tre'Shon.io on Blue Sky. You can find all his stuff there. I'm Kevin. I have Falcoholic Kevin. Check out thefalcoholic.com for all that great written content. Like, subscribe, leave that 5-star review in your podcast platform of choice to get the special perks. You can sign up for the YouTube channel membership or the patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. You get some early podcast episodes, very limited. If you get the YouTube, you don't have to listen to ads if you're a channel member, I believe. At least not anything from us. Like YouTube may still want to squeeze you. I don't know. But you should get low ads at least. Same thing with Patreon. Very limited advertising on all that stuff. So if you're someone who absolutely hates ads, that is an option for you. But again, guys, thank you for joining us. We'll be back Wednesday with Adnan Ikic to break down a very disappointing trade deadline and the vultures circling on this Falcons team, who are, if they drop 3-6, pretty much over at that point. So we'll see. You'll see how it goes. This team does have a habit of just playing up to their opponents. So the Indianapolis Colts are arguably the best team in football. So maybe the Falcons will also play their best game. Maybe not. You decide, or maybe not. Falcons are going to decide, but something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. At this point, I have nothing. I can't predict this team at this stage. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next time here on the Dirty Birds and Brews podcast. Have a great night, folks.